So we'll start with Vikram Vora from My Dentist. Vikram? Yeah, go ahead. Use the stage. You can walk around if you like.
You can talk about your venture, what you're doing, what your vision is, and we just...
we are a chain of dental clinics with the brand My Dentist. We aim at providing high dental services at affordable price to the common man. And that's what we have designed the entire business plan around. And we've been doing that successfully so far.
You have your PPT, Vikram? Is this PPT ready? My Dentist? Yeah, just a moment. You can just introduce while we just load your PPT.
So we've been doing it since 2009, and we're right now at 34 operational dental clinics. We'll be opening 3 more in the next 15 days. So we'd be at 37 clinics. We cater more than every... The PPT is on. So this is what I said. We are an organized chain of dental clinics that provide high-tech services to the common man at affordable prices. Affordable prices being the important part here. We saw that there's a gap in dental services market where people are not able to afford. That's why the entire reason why My Dentist exists. I'll use that. Yeah, so this just shows how what we are and how we are different from the others in the market. It could be private practices, charitable trusts, hospitals, other dental chains. So we basically operate on a very simple hub and spoke model. We are more curative in nature. We do not do cosmetics. So we do not say that we will change your smile for the better. We will do smile improvement procedures, etc. We are curative. So the person who comes to us is typically a person who's applied glove oil on his tooth, inserted one or two pieces of gloves, has taken 1 or 2 combiflams, followed by ibuprofen, and then is coming to us with pain saying that it's still aching. Okay, so that's the kind of people whom we treat. It's the average middle class. We don't do a lot of preventive stuff because people don't know about preventive stuff. We are trying to include it slowly. Our target segment is the middle class, SEC BB minus and above. Currently, we are located in Bombay and Pune. The key in our business plan is that we have very standard operations and procedures. So each of our clinic operates in technically a similar way, including even the treatments and the procedures. That makes the entire thing more scalable. This is exactly the performance that we've had till date. The number of patients have grown from around 35 per month. Last month we clocked 6,500. This month we are expecting 7,500. We have 34 clinics. Our revenue's been growing. I didn't think the number would exist here. And currently we are the largest private body of dentists associated directly under a single banner. So we have currently 152 dentists on our payroll. It makes us the largest dental chain in India in terms of number of patients, number of clinics, as well as number of dentists. It's a few numbers. The footprint that we have, 350 employees we've grown to this over 2 years. More than 150,000 patients that have been served so far. More than 50,000 different treatments that's been taken. It covers practically the whole of Bombay right now where we exist. So a few learnings that we had from My Dentist the hard way, that includes losing a lot of money as well as time. One of it is that our decisions are all in line with the company's culture. So our company's culture is that we are a young company that tries to do different things, tries to do things in a standard way so that everybody operates on a similar platform. So an example to this is that because this is the company's culture, we have a policy that we employ dentists that are between the age group of 27 years to 32 years. So one would say, why such young dentist? I will not be able to get myself treated. But that's not happening. People are happy to get treated by young dentists provided we have the right technology and the right processes to follow them up. Because if we want to use good technology, if we want to use good processes, it will be very difficult for me to actually implement it across dentists who would have 10, 15 years of work behind them, worked with old technologies, and also to make them think that, the the standard operating manual says you got to do a root canal this way. So irrespective of how you've been doing since the last 10 years, if you're at my dentist, you'll do it this way. It's very difficult to enforce that. Whereas young dentists are willing to learn it. They're willing to learn from each other. They're willing to do a lot of knowledge sharing. That's the basic core. We've been focusing on internal promotion. We tried getting people from outside. Didn't work. So we started making managers out of dentists rather than getting managers from outside and trying to make them dentists or at least knowledgeable in dentistry. So that's another learning that we had the hard way. The unit economics, that's standard to everything. Unit economics is more important in the healthcare business than in the retail business. Retail business, you can say, when the footprint grows larger, I'll have 50 dental clinics. That time I'll be profitable. We believe each unit has to be profitable independently. Yep.
Everybody time.
Oh, sorry. I'm done. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we believe in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank-
We'll have more questions.
Sure. Thank you, Vikram. Next, we have Dr. Yogesh Patil from Biosense.
Hello. Am I audible? Yeah. Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Yogesh from Biosense Technologies. Okay. Sorry, guys. Hello. Yes. We good? So we have developed a non-invasive hemoglobin measuring device, which we call TouchBee. It's basically as simple as you just put your finger in and get your hemoglobin in 60 seconds. So we have been around developing this technology for 3 years of research. We have just launched our product in India. So let me tell you more about anemia. What is anemia? Anemia is basically low levels of hemoglobin. And this world map shows prevalence of anemia. The darker brown shades indicate more prevalence of anemia. So you can see India, most of the Africa are in bad, have bad stats in terms of anemia prevalence. And if you look at the numbers, about 1.62 billion people in the world are anemic, especially in preschool children, pregnant women, and even in elderly. Anemia has significant complications. In preschool children, it impairs their brain development, physical development. In pregnant ladies, it's a life-threatening condition. If you have very low hemoglobin and you're just about to deliver a baby where you would have a half a liter blood loss anyway. So that blood loss could be fatal if you're anemic. So what we did when we started this, me and my colleague Dr. Abhishek Sen, we were still studying medicine. We were volunteering for an NGO and went to a rural area where we saw the problem of anemia. And we thought that we could develop something for this. Maybe a smart test or based on invasive methods and all. But we found that there are plenty of invasive tests. And even treatment-wise, government is distributing iron folic acid tablets and all for free. Still, NFHS2 and 3 reports of India shows that there's consistently increasing in anemics in India. So we thought the problem is not with the treatment available, the present diagnostics, but it's with the compliance with the tests. It's with the easiness of the test. And so we developed a device TouchBee. So it's as simple as that. You just put your finger, get your readings of hemoglobin as well as oxygen saturation, heart rate in 60 seconds. I'm actually carrying one in my pocket, but I don't know how will I demonstrate. So I'll just show you this. So we are pricing it at very low because we want this device to be used. We are seeing this device in more of preventive healthcare, more of in primary healthcare, used by healthcare workers, and not in developed hospitals. But of course, we do have a use where you could actually manage and see if you are a surgeon whether that patient is bleeding or not with the help of our device. So the challenge we are facing today is what what should we do to this map? And so we at Biosense believe that we'll color it yellow. Thank you.
No, if you have a little more time, so if you have some more to cover, go ahead.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story of how we started actually. It started in Abhishek and me was living in a dorm room in Nair Hospital when I was doing my MBBS from Nair Hospital, Mumbai. So it started with Piramal Prize actually. So we won the Piramal Prize in IIM Ahmedabad. IIM Ahmedabad offered us incubation. They gave us some seed funding, and we kept on working on this. It was basically a doctor saying that I can make an electronic device. So that was really not believed by much of the guys. But we learned all electronics, going to Lamington Road, learning it from radio repairing guys, learning it from pulse oximeter repairing guys, all mamas and kakas and bhaus. So it was just passion. We went through a lot of philanthropic organizations recognized us. WHO called us for presentation. Our devices on their website. We got EcoIngreen fellowship in 2010. So they gave us about 90K USD. So that helped us to move along. And then we just got a venture capital funding for our device. So it's really about, so there are still questions about why are you pricing your device at this price or low or high. So I think people are not used to see non-invasive hemoglobin measuring device, and I'm not one. So I can't ask them what should I price this. Like it's a typical Henry Ford problem. Where if you could have asked many people at that time, how do you want your car? How do you want a vehicle to be? He said, what do you want to travel for travel faster? See, they would have said faster horse.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to request you to
Sure.
pace it up a little, please.
Okay, so it's basally I'm up. If you have any questions, please.
We'll come back to questions. First
We'll come back
cover
to
it.
questions. We will
Okay.
move to Rajat Goyal from IQ India. And Rajat, may I kindly request, we have some people sitting on that side as well. So if you can just take turns to address both sides, it'll be nice.
Good morning. It's actually very heartening to see so many people in healthcare session. I was one of the participants in 2007 in TIE Summit in Delhi, and to my surprise there was no session on healthcare because people believed that healthcare is not a hot sector for entrepreneurs, and it was meant only for IT. So thanks a lot. I believe a lot of interest has come in now health, and I can see a lot of private equity people also sitting in. So that's a very encouraging space right now to be in, very hot space. Okay, coming to my presentation, what I'll do is I'll take you through a little journey of ours, why we went into this, and then specifically I'll spend some time on our learnings, how we worked on the same challenges for the first 3 years that we were surviving in the next 2 years when we were growing. So I was actually working as a director for Bausch & Lomb Surgicals. I worked for that company for 11 years. And we were into surgical equipments, high-end equipments for ophthalmology, that is eye disease. And we genuinely felt that we are doing a great job in building eye care, a very good eye care cult in the country and giving right quality equipments. One chance event of going back to one of the places where I spent my childhood. Can I go to the presentation? Yeah. Oh. Which one is this? This one? So one chance event where I spent my childhood, I realized that 60 kilometers outside Delhi, that dream was not there. It's far more worse than what I thought it would be. People were using 20 years old antiquated technology to do eye treatment. That was very pathetic. So that gave me some insights on whether we can build a socially relevant, profitable company in the space in healthcare in the country. Then doing the evaluation, we realized that this is a $2 billion industry, and by 2015 this would go to around $5 billion, and there'll be 5-6 players in this. So if we do a simple maths that 25% will be aggregated, So it will be around $1 billion, five companies who would get into it by that time. So $200 million is a very exciting business to be in a space which is socially relevant, where you can create huge impact and still be relevant from profitable perspective. So that was what drove us into this when we started this. Where we are today is that we started in 2007. Today we have 20 eye hospitals that are world-class eye hospitals in district headquarters, giving eye care services to people at affordable price. Affordable as in the price that are relevant in those particular places. We have 60 super specialist eye doctors, which breaks the myth that doctors don't travel and don't stay in smaller places which are around 1 lakh population, so that kind of towns we are there. And we have right now overall threshold level of 500,000 patients, which is exciting for doctors primarily because doctors are interested in, perfecting their art. So that's what drives us. And very fortunate to have Frost & Sullivan Award, which for Best Eye Care Provider this year. And we are the youngest company to do it. So while in this journey, we were able to con two rounds of private equity. One from special investor who invest in socially relevant projects, and then after that we did a second round with two PE funds, very reputed. That is Helion and Nexus. Okay, now coming to my learnings, where I would like to spend some time. This is the basic issues have remained the same in the last 5 years. Capital, how do we get manpower, then how do we get manpower in both, which is managerial as well as doctors, and then how do we move forward, what can be our business model. So when we were young, we thought that in 1 year we would do a proof of concept and then we'll get private equity. But as I was mentioning when I started my presentation, we went to a few guys. They were genuinely interested because the team was very good. But what we realized was that they wanted us to get into IT because they said, you are a smart group of people, you can figure out the business in IT, so why don't you go there? So we looked at partnership as a model at that point in time. Then we were not having critical mass, so therefore all activities were very localized. We had doctors, but results were not predictable. So therefore we worked on a brownfield model where we worked on doctors who had trust in those areas so that we can move from there on and get benefit of their talent. And we also created mobile doctors who could do very good surgeries in those areas.
Rajat, you'll have to slightly pace it up, please.
Okay, I'm finished. Okay, and then in case of managerial talent, we figured out that we'll not be able to get talent. So we worked very hard to get our processes in the right place so that we don't require that kind of talent. And last, when the centers were not doing right, it was looking like that, there were emotions involved. And we didn't want to move out of there. But then economics determined that since patients are not accepting us, so we should move out. So therefore, we created a strategy that if we don't do well in a year's time in a place, we'll move out. So therefore, we culled one of our centers at that time. Now, these are 5 things that we did again at the next level, which is growth level. However, time is limited, so probably you can go through the slide, and if you want any of the questions, I can answer during the question and answer session. And where we want to be by 2015 is that we want to be a #1 company, which will do IPO by 2016-17, which will be very profitable, but still world-class and standardized care. Thanks. You can look through this and probably if you want me to address any of the questions, I can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Guruswamy from Perfint.
Hi. For a change, I'm going to sit and talk. It looks like this gives me the flexibility to...
You can nicely swing around and talk there. Yeah.
And address both sides. Yes, I'm going to do that. I'll use this next one. Oops.
We have his PPT?
Yeah, I guess it's loading.
Yeah, just give it a minute while you can introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm from Perfint Healthcare. I'm a co-founder of a company called Perfint Healthcare. We are in the space of what we call as interventional oncology. Oncology, as you all know, is to do with cancer. And interventional oncology is... interventional oncology is, it's a technique which uses minimally invasive approach to diagnose and treat cancer. The reason that we went through multiple things and finally ended up in cancer is, as you all know, there's so much of statistics available. Cancer is kind of becoming number one killer disease, and it's overtaken cardiac, it's overtaken HIV in many of the countries, more so in the emerging societies like India, China, Japan, in Latin America. These are the big victims for this disease because of the food habits and stuff like that, various reasons. So our solutions assist clinicians to perform minimally invasive procedures, starting from diagnosis up to treatment in the space of cancer. So I thought the best way to describe what we do is by showing this. This is what we do. Together with clinicians, we improve quality of life for those fighting with cancer. And how we do that is by bringing innovative advances to field of image-guided procedure. Just to give you a quick perspective, image-guided is, we all heard of the CT scanners, ultrasound, MRI scanners, which help the clinicians to view the anatomy, what's happening inside the body. So the next step is by using that information, they do certain procedures. It needs a lot of precision, targeting to do such procedures. These procedures are called biopsies, ablation, pain management, drainage. There are quite a few type of procedures which needs a lot of expertise today. 10 to 15% of the clinicians practice these kind of procedures because of the skill and expertise required. So our objective and our endeavor is to see how we can broad base this, and we have done this to some level. We have in institutions like All India Institute, KEM Hospital, Sion Nair Hospital here, or in Alfred Hospital in Australia, the residents and students using our systems to perform these procedures. We have around 6,000 procedures being done the systems. So just to give a quick perspective, how did we start? What was the trigger point? That is what most of us we heard somebody asking Ronnie. What was the trigger point? For us, this is what it is. The inability to enjoy we were all, the founders of this company, 5 of us, we used to work with GE Medical Systems for almost 15 years. And we started this in 2005. We left healthcare and worked elsewhere for a year or so. And, the inability to enjoy the non-healthcare environment and the courage and confidence that probably the experience that we had in GE, that was the primary trigger point for us to do this. And we thought initially, we started this as an engineering services company, and this is how we started. The difference between the top right logo and what you see now is we started as an engineering services company. We thought we would ride over the services wave that was coming up in a big time. India is known for that, but with a slight differentiation of domain specialization. We were not wanting to be a generic services provider. We wanted to be in the healthcare space. And that's what we thought we will start doing. Create cash flow and then move into our own products. Our dream was to move into our own products, create IP, but we thought we'll do it after 3 or 4 years. But then we had challenges like this, the challenges of Indian customers accepting a services company from India, the kind of pricing expectation that happens typically. If somebody, general expectation is if I can design a product for, say, 100 rupees, if an outsourced company, can you design it at one-tenth of the cost? Can you do a value engineering at 1/10 of the cost? That was the kind of expectation which is not practically feasible. And global customers typically look at the big names. They look at the global presence. So you need to be in the US if you want to provide service to a US healthcare company. So these are typical challenges that we saw. We started sensing the scaling up issues somewhere around 2007. That was the time. But the big advantage that we had over this period of time is we were connected to the end customers. We were a services company. We were working with the clinicians. We created a panel of around 20 clinicians, not just in India. Since we were in that space, we were working for more than 15 years in the space. We created a panel of clinicians, connected with them, and that helped us to create concepts. As a services company, we were creating concepts with which we could go to the customers, go to a company, XYZ company, and present them those concepts, saying that here are the areas that we can work with. So we created such concepts, and those concepts finally took us to a product company, and this is the first kind of a crude robo that we built, what you see here on the screen.
I'm sorry, but you need to just quickly wind it up now.
Yes, I'm going to take 2 minutes, as the benefit of being the last speaker. Okay, so the challenges, I guess we can speak about it if you ask any questions, but the 3 areas that we look at challenges, the business model, one can see the challenges, the business model, right people, funds, the quality and the quantity and the source of fund. I guess the business model is not a problem at all today with the kind of exposure that each one of us have here. I'm sure each one of us will create beautiful, sound business models. But the issue is to start on the people side. We heard everybody talking about it. I put some points here. We can speak at length about it. The point is, the problem is not availability of talent. The problem is availability to startups and ability to recruit compatible talents by a startup. And that's what we have been facing as a big challenge. When it comes to fund, again, I would slightly differ from a couple of other views here. We don't see capital as a big issue today. I mean, maybe it's much better than what it was last decade. We have the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science, and VCs and private equity showing a lot of interest to fund good business case and good set of people. But I think we still have a challenge in terms of operational, the working capital. The banks are still not willing to fund the startups the way they would do with others. So those are some of the challenges that we have been facing. We are going through this. And as a technology company, the ecosystem in India has been a big challenge for us. And the skepticism of, is it a product from India? And especially for somebody like us, we are looking at global markets. Right now we are present in almost every market except US, Japan and China. But still the skepticism continues. And we have to face this in every single new country that we are entering. We've had quite a few learnings. We will as don't have time much, we can talk about it maybe in the question and answer session. But what we have done now is, I can proudly say that with all the available statistics, we are the global leader in terms of the targeting systems, installed base of the targeting systems as of now. I mean, that's something we have done over the last 7 years' time. So
I'm sorry, I think we need to wind it here. We'll take a few quick questions on this. Is that okay, Sudarshan?
What I can do, I can set the tone of 1 or 2 questions. And then,
Sure, please.
So my name is Sudarshan Jain. I'm the managing director for Abbott, which is #1 healthcare company in India. This is on behalf of Mr. Piramal, whom I had the opportunity to work earlier. So what we'll do is take some questions, common questions to the panel. And I was hearing both when Ronnie was speaking and when Piramal was talking. And both of them emphasized, one, the values, and second is the vision. Because unless, as an entrepreneur, we have the vision, where do we want to take the business on, and what are the values which we are important, those are 2 significant parts. So I will throw one common question to all the 4 panel members. What is the vision they have of the business? And second, what are the values which they think are important to being an entrepreneur? This is the common question to both the panels, and then we will throw it to the audience. Yeah, starting here.
I think there is enough and more opportunity to create socially impactful business in the country. So therefore, as Mr. Piramal said, I firmly believe that we are privileged ones where we have opportunity to create very strong businesses that will help society at large, but also be profitable. And in terms of values are more or less constant in most of the people, which includes integrity. So I also believe in the same, that if we can create very strong socially relevant projects and do it with right integrity, I think that's the real challenge for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think I shared the vision statement. That's exactly what we want to say. That's basically co-creating products with the clinical experts to help those who are fighting with cancer. That's the vision. That's exactly what we do. That's why we chose the field and to be there in the interventional oncology. I wouldn't get to the financial goal. I mean, that obviously keeps working out depending upon where we do, what we do, and what point in time, doing different things. But broadly, what we want to achieve is, as a company, developing products from, creating products from developing markets like India, but globally relevant. The products we strongly believe that if the product can meet the requirements of emerging markets like India, China, Korea, Latin America, it can surely meet the requirements of developed markets. So that's our goal. So when we started selling products, first couple of years we sold in India, and then we got slowly we scaled up into the emerging societies. Now we are looking at US. This year probably we'll get into the US markets. We just got into the Europe market 6 months back. So that's how we want to do. In terms of value, that's how we have coined the name of the company. Perfint basically means performance with integrity. I mean, those are the 2 value systems that we learned from GE, and we strongly, right from day one, that's what we have been looking at.
I think we at Biosense believe in the true honesty and really caring about to whom we want to give our device to, and being completely honest with it, and not just focusing on profits and getting sales or revenues, but really making use of our device and not just say I can make a fancy iPhone based application for my device and sell it to say $2,000 in US, but that's not what we want to do. We want to do it here because you saw in the map the need is here, we need it here. So it's really honestly sticking to where we started, why we started. That's what we believe in at Biosens.
At My Dentist, the basic genesis is that we exist to service the middle class. So the reason why we exist is provide affordable solutions. So our vision as well as our goal as well as everything that work is towards making dentistry affordable to people who currently cannot afford it. An example of that would be that over the last 1 year, we did more than 1,500 orthodontic cases. People who would never have applied braces on their teeth because they are so expensive. We made them inexpensive. We made them available to the poor. And that is why we exist. So as he said, most important aspect of our business is we are making a social change, and we are very proud of doing that. And that is also visible in our culture. So our young team is a learning team. It continuously keeps learning. It keeps sharing the knowledge. So our inexperience is actually negated due to the fact that we do more clinical cases than a doctor does over an entire lifetime within 1 year. And that's where we see this going forward. We aim to be the largest dental chain in Asia in the next 2 years. We are already the largest in India. That's what we want to do. Thanks.
Now what we'll do, thanks for the great comments. What we'll do, we'll throw the questions open if there are any questions.
Just wait for the mic to come to you, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paresh Rajde. I'm the founder and chairman of one of the largest network company in India. We present in 2,800 towns and cities actually right now. My question is a little, since it's a healthcare and the people related, the philanthropy also is being talked about. In India, and I'm sure that the gap will be there across wherever you go. The big gap today is the organ donation, and the organs are, the demand is known, whether it's eye or liver or whichever the organs are being really used or needed. But always a problem with the supply side is there, and I think there where the awareness and all other things are there, there are very huge gaps are there. We being I have this, my next the target and the goal is that to how do we bring these two things together, and we as having sitting on this huge network, we can do that. My question here is that, with this gentleman here and maybe somebody in the audience, that there has to be the infrastructure available when there is the supply comes, it has to be used or it has to be planted to the needy people on the spot. It's time becomes the critical at that point of time. Is there anyone, has some thoughts that, can we create such kind of an infrastructure across India, if not across India, but like, there are clinics are available, like say for example, your chain, eye chains are there, and we bring that together. So there is a demand side and the supply side which we can bring it, and there is a infrastructure or the servicing part which requires the on-the-spot turnaround, which is the most critical at that point of time. Is there anything thoughts are there on this regard, and you can do this as a common resources, and we can do it together actually, something like that?
From my side, I can say that we've just started a small eye bank, so we don't have domain knowledge right now in this. However, the need is very large. So therefore, maybe in the next 1.5 years, we'll have some learnings, some thoughts. Probably we can connect then. But right now, I can only say that need is very large, and there is opportunity to do that. However, there are no learnings right now from our context.
The next question, please.
Hi, I have a question for you, the dental doctor.
I'm an engineer.
Yes. So I have a fitness studio, a couple of them, and I'm trying to scale up and I'm facing issues. So can you explain a little bit about your scaling problems and how you dealt with it?
As far as we are concerned, I see three kinds of problems that we faced. One was on the capital front, the second on the human resources front, and the third is the standardization to scale up. So it is essential. The Capital Front, you have events like these happening. There are people all around who are willing to invest. You should be lucky. I was lucky, right? So I found somebody who was really good, and so Seed Fund, by the way, has invested in our company, and fortunately we got associated with Seed Fund, who've been able to really guide us through the entire scaling process and also changed our vision. So we were not actually thinking of creating something that was this big. It was created in a joint effort. So you need to get the right partner for the capital needs. Human resources, that's a problem every human intensive, because I'm sure even the gym would be somewhere. The fitness center is connected to the trainers that are existing in your clinic. So I don't know how you tackle that problem. We tackle it by creating a very good training program and ensuring that everybody who joins us goes through it. And the third aspect of the entire thing, that is standardization of processes. So everything starts from a standard operating manual view where you ensure that every process in each of your centers works in the same way and the same method, and every person working with you is on the same wavelength. So whether you are doing push-ups in one gym or the other gym, the equipment has to be still the same.
We'll take your question.
Hello, this is more related to pharmaceuticals. We see a lot of gaps in healthcare today, and doctors are the god of the medical sector. So what can pharmaceutical industry do and where to fulfill these gaps in healthcare and medical sector?
Question is for me?
Yeah.
In fact, the most exciting sector from entrepreneur point of view is going to be the healthcare sector. The very demographics of the country state that only 35% of the population at this particular moment get the benefit of healthcare. 65% of the population don't get the benefit. The government investment in the healthcare at the moment is less than 1%, and if I include private sector investment, it is around 3 to 4%. Compared to what is being done in most of the advanced market and even in the emerging markets. Advanced market, it is around 14%. In Indian market, related markets is around 8 to 9%. So we have to go a long way as far as healthcare sector is concerned. The opportunities which are there, the point which you made, making medicines available to people or affordable healthcare available to masses. Some of the experiments which are being tried, say by my dentist and some of the young entrepreneurs here, there are a lot of people which are talking about different kind of thing, use of technology, use of internet. Can telemedicine be used to reach the healthcare to the masses? Can internet models be used to make pharmacy and drugs available across the country? Can something, my dentist kind of thing, can be done at a larger scale? Can eye care be provided across the country? And a lot of great work which is being done in this country. And the next generation, next 10 years, will be a lot of entrepreneurs emerging in healthcare. If I go to any business school, I'm Ahmedabad. We have got innovation center there. So wherever you go today, you see healthcare innovations and healthcare entrepreneurs coming up. So there will be big opportunity. The issue is rightly, and different people are tackling in a very different way.
I'm sorry, but this is going to be the last question. Can we make it quick, please?
Good morning, everybody. Vikram, this is for you. So I'm a dentist turned author, self-help author, corporate trainer, and motivational speaker. So my clinic still goes on and managed by my assistant doctors. So my specific questions are for you. First is how you ensure the quality of treatment. Do you take your team through a structured induction process? First, answer first.
We have a structured induction process. It's a 15-day training program. Every dentist joining us has to go through that program, get certified. Only then is he placed at any of the clinics. And we are very sure of the technique that we follow. So our standard operating procedure very clearly specifies when to call a consultant, when to do what, and which technique to use in each of the treatments. So even if you've learned something, say for example, one of your assistants was to join my dentist, I wouldn't allow him to work the way you work. So he would have to actually align himself with the way my dentist works and then continue. That's where the age becomes a very important factor.
Okay, how you market your plan? You market it clinic-wise or city-wise or state-wise? How the advertisement
We have a two-pronged strategy. There is a local strategy and there is a central strategy. The central strategy would be more brand-driven. They would be across mass media. And the local would be, we do a lot of camps, a lot of, so we screen around 50,000 kids and every month. Okay, this is a free camp that we conduct at schools, at railway stations. So wherever we get some place to just stand and start screening people, we do that.
I'm really sorry, but I need these have been multiple questions.
Last line, will it do? Last line.
Yeah.
So how you cope up with the attrition of dentists? How fast they leave you and open their own clinic?
In the last 1 year, we have grown from 4 dentists to 150 dentists, and we've lost 7.
Okay, thanks a lot. Mr. Sudarshan, if you can just...
Thank you very much. It has been a very exciting panel. First, let's give a big round of applause to all panel members.